DC Multiverse!
G'day super friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be having a look at 3 different figures. A Batman who's a vampire, a modern take on a 90s classic, and the sickest Deadman figure I have ever seen. That's right, today we will be having a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Vampire Batman, Shockwave Eradicator, and DC Rebirth Deadman. Special thanks to Michael Lopez from My DC Figures for sending the Vampire Batman along to me. You should go check out his channel, he's a big DC fan. To McFarlane Toys for sending me along this Eradicator figure for review purposes. And to my friend Rob from Rob D Toys for sending me the Deadman figure. So all 3 of these figures come with a trading card as usual with some fantastically beautiful artwork and a data file on the back. Not all their accessories are exactly the same because we have the Vampire Batman who comes with a bat battle axe. The Eradicator comes with another set of interchangeable hands, and Deadman comes with some astral ghostly projections. Now let's take a look at all 3 of them individually, starting with the Vampire Batman. Now for those of you who may or may not know, the Vampire Batman is actually not the classic vampire bats from the Elseworld tale, but rather the Batman from DC vs. Vampires. Or really it's just based on this one cover here. Spoiler alert, in DC vs. Vampires, a vampirized Nightwing just punches a hole clean through Batman's chest. No, seriously. Look at that. That's a big hole. We've seen this kind of thing before from Todd with the Batman Who Laughs with Hawkman harness, and that was only ever a cover. As you can see, in general, this figure is a reuse of the previously used Hush Batman body buck. Here you can see the Hush Batman on either side of him. So aside from the color scheme, there's not a whole lot to talk about that would be very different. Except for the fact that both of these hands here have been resculpted. Here's one that's a claw hand. It's a bloody claw hand. And then the other one has been sculpted, again, to be a claw hand, but also to hold his battle axe. So those are 2 newly sculpted pieces. The belt is an interesting shade of brown. I think that this is going to be something that a lot of you customizers at home are going to snag off of this figure to put on the Hush Batman, thus preferring the brown belt over a shade of yellow. Same bat inlaid into the chest of this figure, but the head sculpt is completely different. I really think that this looks like it's sort of kind of based off the Jim Lee head sculpt, but then reworked to look angry and vampirely and bloodthirsty. I think mine looks pretty good from the offset, the blood and the teeth and the eyes. For something that's been painted so small, they look pretty good, and you're not going to really notice any problems with the details for this figure's painting. You know, with the naked eye, you're really going to have to be looking at it with a macro lens like we are currently. What's neat about this figure's color scheme is that it's black and then almost like a dark blackish brown for the body of this figure. Definitely a very different color tone, but I think it really works for this figure. I am pretty much gonna skip over the articulation part of the video for this figure because we've already seen this body in action multiple times on this channel, and let's face it, probably on many channels, so we don't really need to go over how well this figure is or is not articulated. A very cool looking figure. I do kind of hope that we get more of these DC vs. Vampires characters. That would be kind of fun. And of course we'll need to look at the battle axe before we move on to the next figure. And it looks pretty good. He's got the bat that's been riveted right there to the face of the axe on both sides. We have almost like a gunmetal in the middle with a silver on the outside. You got some chips in the axe. Fantastically sculpted. Here is the handle for the axe, and the bottom has a sharp, pointy, I was going to say pommel, but that really wouldn't be a pommel. That's a murder spike. That's a murder spike right there. And next we look at that 90s classic, reinvented for a modern era, the Eradicator. A Kryptonian AI superweapon, the Eradicator eliminated contaminating alien influences. On Earth, it built the Fortress of Solitude before trying to convert the planet into New Krypton. It took Superman's form after Doomsday killed him, and on his resurrection melded with Star Lab scientist David Connor. After joining Hank Henshaw's Superman Revenge Squad, the Eradicator now currently serves Zod's family. You'll note that the body for this Superman Superman figure is basically the Bizarro, Infected Superman, the Hush Superman, the Rebirth Superman. This one has been used many times, and the dead giveaway is the fact that at the top of the boot area you can still see, well, it's boots. It is kind of a nice shade of blue that they've used for this figure that is clearly molded in all black. The S is a little different in the sense that the red part is a sculpted on piece, and I really don't know about the yellow, if it's part of the body or if it's a separate piece that they've fit on the inside so that we don't end up with paint sloppage. Also, for those of you who may not be familiar, this version of the Eradicator, his skin is all completely jet black, and his visor actually just sits over his ears, you know, like a regular old pair of sunglasses. And I think that they went with this look to really delineate him from the look of Kal-El. For those of you more interested in a more classic looking Eradicator, well, there is this sort of deal. I've actually taken the goggles from the DC Universe Classics, and they fit perfectly on the head sculpt of the Action Comics 1000 Superman. If the goggles that you can't see through don't quite do it for you, well, here's something that I saw over on Toy Shiz's Instagram account. I didn't come up with this. This is totally him. So kudos to the Shiz, because this idea is the shiznit. Shizit. Is that cool? Is that still cool to say shizit, shizzle, the shizzle? As you can see, I've also cut the cape on this one so that that little piece, which sticks up, we'll discuss that later, doesn't stick up on this cape, and it actually looks, in my opinion, a lot better not having that piece there. The over-the-shoulder cape for this guy is actually just glued on right next to the emblem, rather than the emblem and the cape being part of the same sculpted piece. Man, that would have been cool if they had done that, but they opted to do it this way, and mine's not too bad. I have seen some where the gap is bigger, but mine doesn't look too bad. The cape for this guy is the thing that I think, you know, a lot of fans are like, well, this is a thing, it's weird. It's really pre-posed, like really pre-posed off to the side, as you've seen, but there's a big bubble right here where the wind has caught it, and you know what, all that is okay, but this right here off to the side, I'm not digging it. It just does not do it for me. And I mean, let's face it, this piece here sticking out doesn't even really make any sense. I know what they're trying to go with, but it doesn't make sense. So that's why on the other one I cut it off. It's not too hard. I just took an X-Acto blade and razor cut it right along the seam here, because as you can see, there is more or less a natural line, you know, to cut the cape. As far as articulative properties go for this figure, we've already seen it many times on this channel, so I'm just going to completely skip it, just like I did with the previous Vampire Batman figure, and we're going to move on to Deadman. Circus acrobat Boston Brand was traumatized by the anger and abuse he experienced as a child, was murdered, and then given a new chance at life. As Deadman, he can inhabit the bodies of the living, and is always driven to atone for the selfish way he lived his life by bringing hope to the hopeless. I mean, who wouldn't be inspired to feel more hopeful with a face like that? That just screams hope. No, seriously though, that is a sick job on Deadman's face. That is the greatest Deadman face I've ever seen in the history of Deadman faces. All of the craggles in his skin, and the dark underneath his eyes, the shadows there. This is probably one of Todd's finest head sculpts for a character. This is badass. And as we can see, this is a reuse of the Blue Beetle Booster Gold body buck. This could be used for so many characters. You could do Plastic Man, you could do Riddler in his green skin tight question mark suit, Elongated Man, Sinestro, and just like Deadman should, he's got the D on his abdomen area down there, swinging popped collars, and red booties that are a different color than the rest of the figure. He's a very simple figure. There really isn't much to see here. There's no shading on this guy, at least not that I can tell. and I'm okay with that. I just like him being red the way he is. Here he is compared to the DC Collectibles Icons, and then the DC Universe Classics, and then the DC Direct Brightest Day Deadman figure. I think overall this is my favorite looking Deadman in comparison to the rest of them. I know that he lacks the red gloves like all the rest of them, in favor of just having the same red all the way down, but I'll take it, and it's accurate to the source material, so no complaints here. I would have liked to have two open hands like this, you know, without having a punchy fist. This is like one of the few times where I'm like, he probably could have done without having a punchy fist and just has the creepy fingers. This piece right here actually just attaches to Deadman's back with this little tiny hole, so you just push it in there, ta-da, and now he has something to keep his head dry in the rain. He's also got these little spooky projection-y things, misty things that I can attach to his arms. I suppose they just kind of go on like this. I don't know. I haven't mastered the sacred art of attaching these yet. And like with the rest of the figures, I'm going to skip the articulation portion because, let's face it, we've already seen how articulated this guy is and is not just by looking at the Blue Beetle and the Booster Gold. I mean, and we can see what his articulation points are and pretty much guess what they're going to... Okay, fine. With this one, I will just quickly go through it very, very quickly for you, showing all of the articulation points and what they can do. I feel like I got to put it in here somewhere just to show you what you can do. There you go. There's that. And then the wrist. And ta-da! Ball head. He's having a ball round in a circle like that. And that's it. So what do I think about all these three figures? I like them. I like them a lot. I love to see the DC roster built out further and further and further. Deadman is my absolute favorite out of the bunch, with the Eradicator taking in the second place, and then Batman as a vampire taking up the third. And I can't wait to see what he does next. Anyway, I guess I'm done for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you with the next one. Have a DC day, everybody, and take care.